today's guest, I have got an incredible human, Erin Lazarus, joining us, who's given us permission to open the vault and dive in and share her amazing story, which is, just beginning for you, Erin, I feel. But at the same time, you've been through so much already. So let's dive straight in. Let's open that vault door and have unfold and have that, huge chat that we've been talking about. So, Erin, for our audience, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, where are you from?
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for having me. So special.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I'm a South African girl, born and bred, and yeah, I'm 26 years old, reaching midlife crisis, I think.
Oh, stop.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I grew up very athletic, very sporty, very able, and yeah, in the blink of an eye, everything kind of turned on its head. And I'm sure we'll dig into the juicy bits, but
Yeah.
yeah, I lost my leg 3 years ago to undiagnosed lupus.
Let's unpack that with your permission. So let's go back prior to you getting sick. What was life like that for you then? You said you were quite sporty and active before you became unwell.
So, I mean, growing up, my dad, there's a race in South Africa, it's called the Comrades Marathon.
Right.
And it's an ultra marathon. It's like crazy. It's 90 kilometers.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, all my life, that's what I saw. I saw him training for Comrades Marathon. So in my mind, like running was normal. And my mom was always like the businesswoman. She's always been, since I was born, she's been a Forex dealer. And yeah, I mean, my life was very normal. I had the best family life ever. My sister's my best friend. And we, from pretty much, I'd say grade one, we started gymnastics together, and we did gymnastics from about grade one to grade seven quite seriously. And then I don't know if it was I didn't enjoy it anymore, if I became too tall, if it's just an excuse, I don't know. But it was kind of like the start of a new chapter.
Yeah.
And going into high school, I thought, I'm gonna be that girl. Like I want to be the girl that at the end of my matric grade 12 year, I want to have done every possible sport. I want to be sportswoman of the year. And so I did that. Took on all the sports possible except tennis. Um, and I fell in love with netball. It was like my absolute passion. I did short distance running, could not stand long distance running, was my worst enemy. And I achieved my goal. I was sportswoman of the year at the end of grade 12. Sport was like I mean, I remember like going to school, and I'd wait till the bell rang at the end of the day because that's when my day would start, when I could go to the sports field. And I found it very difficult after school because now I didn't have that competitive sport anymore. It's like, okay, you go to university, now I'm meant to make something of myself. I don't have my sports team. My friends were all over the world doing all different sorts of things. And yeah, sport kind of was on pause after school. So yeah, a bit of a background on upbringing.
Yeah. Amazing. It sounds like you had the perfect balance though, and I think it's so important for I was the same. I was right into my sports and drama, and everything else was like I just got through, but they were like my main priorities. And just to keep yourself active, and obviously coming from an active family as well, that just had a lot to do. It's almost in your DNA, right?
Absolutely. But I also think I took it so for granted at like 90 kilometers that in my mind I thought, like, I don't think it's actually in my DNA because 4 kilometers for me at that stage was like, can't be
Yeah.
bothered.
Yeah, just a different perspective as well. Probably because you saw your dad train and throw so much into it, so much effort, and obviously you're seeing that from a different scope now. So
Absolutely.
prior, so what happened? What led you to the lead up of your diagnosis? Like, what was that, a few months? Was it a year? Like, what was going on for you at that time?
I would say it was probably about just over a year. Um, so at that stage, I was doing my honors degree. I don't know if they have it in Australia, if it's
Yes.
called
Yeah.
masters or so. Yeah, I was doing that, and I had a whole bunch of symptoms throughout the year. But what happened was I'd have one and it would disappear. So, for example, it started off with like really red nails. Then it almost looked like a nail fungus. That would disappear. Then it was joint pain, then hair loss, then brain fog, then migraines. And because everything was so separate, we treated them separately. And I mean, I was the doctor's best friend. Me and blood tests became very close.
Right.
Um, but because everything was kind of happening in isolation, we were treating it in isolation, and nothing kind of drew us towards a bigger diagnosis. So I kind of expected that because I had such bad joint pain, I'm sitting at my desk too much, like the nerves are compressing.
Right.
I put it down to being a migraine sufferer. There was just,
You had a reason
yeah,
for it to justify it each time.
absolutely. I think part of it, I knew deep down something was up. Um, but I think I tried so hard to almost convince myself you're just a migraine sufferer. It's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, I finished my exams at the end of the year, and it got to a point where I think my body had gone through so much by this stage that it just kind of broke down. All the symptoms hit at once. And then I knew something big was going on. That it's not normal to have 5, 6 migraines a day and be completely going from someone being so sporty, up and about, to literally lying in bed the whole day. Like it was debilitating.
Wow.
So I'd say it was probably about a year. I got diagnosed in the January of 2022. So this was all going on 2021.
And how's that diagnosed, Erin? Is that through bloods? Is it a selection of different tests that you have to get in order to reach that diagnosis?
So it's actually funny because it's so easy to diagnose when you know what to test.
Right.
So it's a quick, easy blood test. But we hadn't been testing this up until then. So yeah, I mean, it literally was one tiny little prick, and you test
Yeah.
positive. It's called ANA. You test
Right.
positive, and then they start testing for all the different types of autoimmune diseases.
That's crazy. Because the one, I don't know why this springs to mind. I don't know much about lupus at all. I mean, obviously, you hear about it, but they talk about the butterfly, like the skin butterfly rash,
Oh,
usually
yeah.
across the nose. Is that right? Almost looks like a sunburn, doesn't it?
Completely. And what's so funny is I got my wisdom teeth removed as like a hope that maybe they were pressing on the nerves that was giving me the migraines.
Right.
They had given me some pain medication. And as soon as I took that pain medication, I got a rash absolutely everywhere, especially the butterfly rash.
Wow.
And then yeah, and I thought, okay, I'm allergic to the pain medication. After, uh, I'm sure we can dig into this next bit, but I got diagnosed with anxiety. Like they kind of put all the symptoms together. They said your physical pain, well, the anxiety is manifesting in physical pain. And so when at the same time, my calf was really sore, my left calf, as well as the foot, and I had like these red spots on top and like a bruise on the side. And I was taking the pain medication that they'd given me for my wisdom teeth because it was so strong, because my foot was so sore, my calf was so sore. But on top of that, I was taking anxiety medication because now all of a sudden I had anxiety. And again, I put it down to this rash, this butterfly rash is just an allergic reaction.
It's quite easily labeled that, isn't it? And when I've spoken to other friends or family or, on the podcast when they say, yeah, I was anxious because there was so much going on and I felt like my body, I knew there was something going on. No one was really listening to me, and nobody knows themselves better than yourselves, basically. And so if a doctor was to say to you, are you anxious? Yeah, I don't suffer from anxiety per se, but I'm anxious because there's something not right. Would that be fair with you? Is that kind of where you were in that push and pull with yourself?
Absolutely. I could not have said it better. That was the exact, I was getting anxious about not having anxiety, being diagnosed with anxiety, and I was anxious that I wasn't getting the correct diagnosis.
Right. Yeah.
So there was also a part of me that was trying to convince myself it was anxiety. So I'm very lucky that I'm not an anxiety sufferer. I've seen it, I've been around it, and I know I'm not an anxious person. So for me, it was very frustrating. Majority of me was going, guys, you've missed this. Like, it's not that. But there was also a part of me that was so wanting a diagnosis and just wanting to get better that if it meant trying to convince myself it was anxiety, doing all the right things to get on the right path, then I wanted to do that. And the more I was chatting to people with anxiety, the more I was taking the medication, the more I was kind of researching, it actually made it so much worse because I knew it wasn't that.
And at that time as well, being so close to your family, they know you better than anyone. They would have been, because all you want to do is just help your children, help your family, and then feeling frustrated and knowing the type of person you are, knowing that you just completed all your exams at school, there'd never been an issue with anxiety or anything like that. It must have been really frustrating for them, but at the same time they're trying to keep a lid on it. Me being a mom myself, you're not outwardly want to show that too much because you're only going to stress them out. So it must have been really difficult. It has that ripple effect, doesn't it, basically, for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's something people forget, that it's not, yes, I'm walking around with a prosthetic leg. And yes, you can see what I've gone through. It's very visible. But nobody sees the trauma and the pain that my mom, my dad, my sister, my aunts, my uncles, that all of them went through.
Yeah.
And I always stick by, I think it's actually harder for them because I, a lot of the time, was not in the right mental space being in hospital. You're on so much medication. I was in an operation. I didn't know half the time actually what was going on. Whereas they standing outside the operating theatre, they're the ones hoping, like, is Eri okay? Is she alive? This op's 2 hours longer than it was meant to be. So I do think people forget that there's a big support system that takes a knock as well.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with you've had the blood test, like you said, prick of the finger, you had that particular test, and then it was about process of elimination, working out which autoimmune disease that you had. It was evident with that test it was going to be one of them, but it was just trying to work out which one it was. What kind of time frame is that? Like waiting, doing further tests and things like that? Is it a fairly lengthy period of time?
Not at all. So I went in on the Thursday. It's so crazy. I remember the dates, like,
Yeah.
man.
So
But
significant.
so significant. Yes, I went in on the 6th of January. It was a Thursday, and I had the rash from the pain medication, which I thought. I told him all my symptoms, and he looked at me straight away. You've got an autoimmune. Let's do blood tests. Did the blood tests. We went for a few scans as well downstairs for my foot.
Yeah.
And I now understand that the scans were only of my veins, not of my arteries, which were the problem. But next morning, pretty much, I got a phone call from the doctor to say, "Hi, Erin. We got the blood test back. You've got lupus. Don't Google anything. Don't look at anything." I had been diagnosed with COVID at the same time. So he said to me, stay home, quarantine, like relax this weekend. On Monday, you'll come and see me. We'll deep dive into it. I'll explain everything. And so my first thought was, like, I'm not going crazy. It was something different. It was something big. Like, it wasn't just I'm a migraine sufferer. And yeah, so the big feeling was relief. The other feeling was I know nothing about lupus. What is lupus? All I know, Selena Gomez has lupus. She had a kidney transplant. Stunning. Like,
Yeah.
there go the kidneys. And
Yeah.
I really didn't. I didn't Google. So it was a very quick process. Literally Thursday blood tests, Friday diagnosis.
And so you recover from COVID, which allowed you to go in and sit down and have those conversations with them. And what does that conversation look like? What information do they give you at that time?
To be honest, I'm not sure. We sat down and it was like all this fancy doctor's language, hemoglobin, and I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to it was a different doctor at this stage. And she was explaining like all these scary things of we're gonna have to check you into hospital, we're gonna have to give you an MRI, but because you've got COVID, we have to put you in an isolation unit. And it was like all these big, scary terms. And I remember actually stopping her and saying, that's very nice. I don't really care right now. My foot is so sore. Please, let's fix this foot. So yeah, the conversation, I can't even remember. I know she was explaining to me what my lupus affects, but in like language I don't understand at all.
And so your family were with you at that time as well, in the room with you?
Exactly, yeah. So my mom and my dad were with me.
Amazing. You said your foot was really sore at this point. Like, is it like a throbbing, like just a really uncomfortable? Are you linking the two together? Are you going, this definitely has something to do with lupus? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. And were they taking note of that and kind of going, right, okay, well, we'll look at that now and go from there? Or
Not as much as I would have liked.
Right.
So what had happened was on the Tuesday before I saw the doctor, we were away for my sister's birthday, and the foot had already, like I mentioned, the bruise, the pink spots. But so it was already sore, and I stuck my feet in the pool, and the left one turned black on top with like these really gross blue blisters underneath.
like almost instantly?
Instantly. Yeah, it was crazy. And I just remember the pain being like, when you're playing with something really cold like ice and you go numb but sore at the same time. That's exactly what it felt like, but like it was excruciating. And I kept saying to them, I don't really care, like just fix me, fix my foot. Because
Yeah.
in your mind, you don't think something extreme can happen to you. Like I was completely in denial. And I remember we went to the nurse at the hotel resort just to get some pain medication because I didn't have any on me.
Wow.
And she said to me, please, you need to rush to the nearest hospital. I'm so worried this is going to end in amputation. And I remember looking at my mom because we had already spoken to the specialist on the phone, and he had said to us, this was the Tuesday. He said, don't worry about it. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Come see me on Thursday. And I remember looking at my mom going, the specialist is calm. He's happy. He says, come on Thursday. I'm not listening to a nurse who tells me that this is going to end in amputation. Like, that's so dramatic. It's so extreme. It's not going to happen to me. And hindsight, she was right. Specialist was wrong. And
That's
I do wish that
amazing.
they focused on the foot more.
So you didn't listen to the nurse. You carried on with your holiday, obviously not being able to put any weight on it or anything really. Did you wait until that? Did you see that time out? And obviously you ended up, when you presented yourself at the hospital to see the specialist and he took one look at your foot, what was his response like, his reaction like?
Pretty calm, just kind of like, it looks vascular, which also at that stage, what does vascular mean? He says it looks vascular. It's probably linked to whatever autoimmune's going on. That's why he sent me down for scans. But again, looked at the veins and not my arteries.
And what was the reasoning for that? Why did he not? Don't know.
No idea. Still don't know. Yeah. And that's something that I'll probably live with forever. I mean, I'm so okay with it now because it's made my life incredible.
Yeah.
But at what point during that week was it too late? Was it as I stuck my feet in the pool? Was it when I went to the nurse? Was it when I went to the specialist? Because could the specialist have changed it? Could he have saved the foot? I don't know. So I do wish, like, you go to a specialist doctor, and I went to two of them, the one on the Thursday and the one the next Monday, when she started explaining everything to me. And I wish that they took more care in, was the foot cold? Was there pulse down to the foot? She's in excruciating pain. Let's believe her and not just kind of brush over the feeling of like she's in pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are feelings I think I'll struggle with forever. But I mean, like I said, I would, if someone said to me, listen, I'll give you your leg back, I'll be like, no, thank you. I'm good.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, even someone obviously not in the medical field in any stretch of the imagination, but even something like a blood clot or something like that, that's sort of, looking at a leg and someone who's got no experience or no medical care experience or anything, you'd want to eliminate all of that as well and not assume. You never assume, right? So you go back on that Thursday, they're doing the test on the leg, and then is it after they get the results back and then they tell you that you're going to have the leg removed?
Yeah, so on the Thursday, we went for the test. Friday, got COVID and got told I've got lupus. Stuck out the weekend. Monday, went back to the doctor. She explained the ins and outs of what it all means. At that point, I thought, I'm going to take a pill, I'll be better. And she said to me, let's wait out this week. When you don't have COVID, come back, we'll do all the tests. The next day, the Tuesday, I was in excruciating pain. So now at this point, my two, I don't know how to name your toes, but the two next to your big toe,
Yeah.
they had turned like white. So there was like a very visible line. So the rest of the foot's like completely discolored, but then those two toes were just white. And it was like the pain just increased exponentially. And my mom said, right, we're going to the hospital. We're going straight to the emergency room. This is not it. And I've never been dramatic. I've never been one to ask for medication. And I just said, I need morphine. That was like the only thing I could think of, because in my mind, morphine would solve the whole problem.
Yeah.
Got to the emergency room again. It was at the same hospital as where these previous doctors were. And it was fighting with the nurses on, guys, the pain medication's not working. I'm still sore. Then they wouldn't let my parents come be with me. Meantime, they had COVID at the same time anyway, so we were all contaminated. Yeah, so that for, I'd say about 24 hours, it was like constant fighting of, you're not listening to me. I'm not coping. Like, this pain is so extreme. They eventually sent me to ICU, to intensive care. They said to me, just this, we're going to pop you into intensive care just to monitor your pain. And it was just weird, like this.
I mean, that's crazy in itself. You don't just pop someone in intensive care unless you don't take up a bed in intensive care unless they feel there's fairly good enough reason for you to be there in the first place, which leads back to why was it not, why were you not seen to at the very minimum for your pain? It must have been terrifying for you.
It was terrifying and it was so frustrating because it felt like everyone was making out like I'm so dramatic. And then finally they sent me for a CT scan, and after an hour or two the results came back and they said, "Oh, you may have a blood clot. We're not 100% sure. We don't have a vascular department here, so we're going to send you to another hospital." And honestly, like, I am so grateful that I was sent through to that other hospital because it saved my life. I did not realize how, like, really it was critical at that point. And we arrived at the next hospital, and I can honestly say from the second they wheeled me into that hospital until today, I have not been in any pain because of my doctors at Mill Park Hospital.
Thank goodness for them. Thank goodness for
Yeah.
them. So, what's going on in your head at this stage? Like, I mean, obviously, finally, you've got someone listening to you. Um, but, you know, where's your headspace at this stage?
In my mind, I knew I needed to be okay for my family.
Yeah.
I also knew that whatever it meant now to get better, I'm doing it. Like, I was so sick of being in pain and I was so sick of feeling sick
Yeah.
that I just wanted to get better. And my doctor, my surgeon, has this look on his face of like such worry. And it's so weird because it gave me comfort. So he bought this fancy machine onto my foot, and then I had no idea what it is, but it basically was measuring if there was a pulse going down to my foot. And he said to me, I remember I was holding my mom's hand, and he said to me, "We're going to do everything we can to save this foot, but I'm not sure." And I remember looking at my mom, and I think like the reality of the situation kind of hit me. And I looked at her and I went, "No," like in my mind going, "Me, like this can't happen to me."
Mhm.
But the worry on his face made me feel like he cared, because all the other doctors up until now had this like a blank look on their face of like, "I'm a doctor. I don't really care about you as a person." Um, and all of a sudden, this doctor, you could see it was really hitting him.
Yeah.
And he was going to do everything he could to save this foot. I mean, he was so humble to the point of he called in another specialist to just observe and confirm that his next steps were correct.
So basically left his ego at the door, because everyone's got a little bit of that completely, which gives me goosebumps because that's what you want. And, you know, they're so incredible at what they do. They're almost got a license to have an ego. But the fact that he's done that and called somebody else in for a second opinion just to make sure he's got, you know, he's making the right decision is just incredible. Says a lot about him and his character for sure.
Absolutely.
So obviously I would imagine that your mom and dad and your sister and your extended family have all, I mean, obviously beside themselves with worry, as you can imagine, but a sense of, you know, relief knowing that you're in good hands finally, you know, and you're, you know, you're on morphine. I would guess you're on something by then, so a bit sort of with it, but not with it. So was he about to take you into theatre, and they were going to make that decision once you were in theatre?
So what happened was I got to Mill Park Hospital on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
The Wednesday night we did an angiogram, which I had to be awake for, so that was just crazy. Like, super weird being awake during an operation.
Yeah.
And then he said after that operation, like I couldn't clear the clot, I couldn't connect the arteries again. It didn't work. So we went in the Thursday night for a more intensive uh, operation, and that was meant to be an hour, and that was turned out being 3 hours. And I didn't know it at the time, but he had a conversation with my family after that operation. And they said to him, sorry, he said to them, like, we managed to reconnect everything. The blood is now going down to the foot, but the tissues, the muscles, they've all died already. And so what that means is she's either going to drag this foot along with her for the rest of her life. She's going to come back in a month and say she's in extreme pain. She wants to amputate. Or we can do a very neat and tidy amputation in the perfect spot and give her her life back. And more than that, there's a health condition behind it. So having dead tissue attached to me when lupus affects my kidneys, probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know this conversation was going on. In my mind, I thought the foot's going to come back to life. So I remember lying in the hospital bed, looking down at my foot, and it was covered in that iodine, that like really yellow,
Yeah.
gross iodine.
Makes it look even worse again, doesn't it?
So much worse. It's so scary.
Yeah.
And I had completely disconnected from the foot. Like it didn't feel like mine. But in my mind, I thought, okay, all of a sudden it's going to like come back to life and I'm going to be able to feel it again. Because what would happen is people would tickle my toe and I could not. I've got the most ticklish feet.
Yeah.
And I couldn't feel anything. So I remember the doctor then walked in and he had the conversation with me and he said, listen, it's not coming back. I'm not happy. These are your two choices. And immediately there was no choice. It was, this is my new journey. This is what I need to get better. And straight away, I pictured those Paralympians on the TV with their blades. And I was like, that's going to be me. I'm getting my life back. Prosthetics are incredible. People are living amazing, amazing lives. And so this is what we're doing. And yeah, Saturday night we went in. It was a very short, sweet, quick, easy operation. And since then, the health just got so much better. All my levels started increasing. The pain disappeared completely. I was so blessed that, I've got the best rheumatologist in the world who takes care of my lupus. I've got the best surgeon in the world who takes care of the blood flow and clotting disorders and whatever issues I have. I got this team just assigned to me, kidney
Amazing.
doctor, physician, neurologist, and honestly, since then I have not had one migraine.
That's incredible. And so we'll talk about the amputation a bit more, but with everything else, like you said, you've got a great team around you. Are you on daily medication with that? Are there certain things that are in place that you cannot do and you have to do? And what does that look like for you?
So yeah, daily medication,
Yeah.
regular checkups with my doctors. But yeah, I'm very lucky that there's not much that I can't do, which is a blessing. I'm lucky my lupus doesn't affect my skin, so I need to avoid the sun.
Because I've seen you on your videos as well, applying your sunscreen, which we all should do anyway, But why is that? So people have got a better understanding. Why have you got to be more thorough with that?
Sun or like UV exposure can flare up your autoimmune. And for me personally, I'm not taking any chances. So like if I go on holiday, I'm underneath the umbrella
Yeah.
and try to stay out the sun as much as possible. Yeah, it's just about doing things that aren't going to flare up your autoimmune. So like for me, the other thing I've got to be wary of is vitamin K.
Yeah.
So when I was in the hospital, they said to me, okay, we're putting you on blood thinners. You're going to be on blood thinners for the rest of your life. I said, cool. I'll pop a pill every day. It's fine. But they said this is going to be a dramatic lifestyle change, and we're going to need to get a dietitian in to explain to you what you can and can't eat. And I remember lying in the bed going, well, there goes my hot chips, my burgers, like all the yummy.
Yeah.
And she sat down and she went, okay, Erin, so no spinach, no broccoli, no leafy greens. I went, oh, it's such a pity.
Is this what it took? Yeah. Oh my gosh, because that's all full of iron, like extra iron, and not allowed to have too much iron.
Yes, it's more so the vitamin K, which has got a clotting factor in it.
Yeah.
The first injection you have as a baby, and they test you for your vitamin K on your heel when when you've just birthed a baby. That's what they test for. It's the first thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the only time you kind of, obviously, unless you're, diagnosed with something like lupus. But so you eat, other than the vegetables, leafy greens, and things like that are loaded with iron and vitamin K. Everything else, as far as diet wise, is fairly. You're super healthy anyway, and doing your fitness and so forth. But so you're allowed to have cheat days, or you're allowed to eat some naughty things if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. It's better, and I can definitely feel the difference when I focus more on veggies and fruits. It's way better for the lupus, but yeah, I can pretty much eat whatever I want as long as I'm not eating too much nonsense and too much rubbish, then it's really fine. I can play around, I can have my cheat meals, and I definitely do.
Yeah.
Definitely enjoy my burgers and my hot chips.
How long were you in hospital after the leg was removed?
About 2 weeks, I'd say. Just over 2 weeks.
So not that long, really, in the scheme of things. It's insane, isn't it? And so from, you know, waking up, coming out of theatre, in recovery, everyone's a little bit blurry and a bit, out of it still, coming out of recovery. But did they have you up fairly soon? Like, they love to have the patients up walking as soon as possible. At least, obviously, you're on crutches and getting the body moving, especially having lupus. Is that what it was like for you?
Completely. So I remember an hour after, so the operation was, I honestly could be so wrong with times. It was late afternoon. I think it was about 4, 5 in the afternoon. But I remember straight after the operation, as soon as I was back in my room, my sister had bought me a smoothie. It was a peanut butter bomb. And I remember like dancing in the chair as she walked in, like dancing in the bed, going like, yay, my sister's arrived. So I was quite aware of what was going on. And then early the next morning, the physio arrived with the walker and she said, right, let's get you up. And everyone had like kind of psyched me out for it's going to be weird for you. You're going to have to shift your center of gravity onto the right leg. And I was up and walking, and well, more hopping than walking,
Yeah.
but I was up next morning.
I would imagine, obviously, being in hospital and going through so much pain, so much sickness leading up to that, of not knowing what was going on, but knowing there was something, and kind of wishing there was a label put on it so you could just get it fixed, as you said. Then finally you find the medical team that's right for you and a great fit for you, and they do, everything right by you, which is a blessing. You have your leg removed, you're in the hospital for 2 weeks. There's also a lot of time. You're an adult as well, so it's not like your family can stay with you round the clock, I would imagine. Although I'm sure they wanted to. But there are a lot of time where there's a lot of fuss, and rightly so. Medical practitioners, specialist surgeons in and out, seeing to you, dressings change, a lot going on, but also the big long days in the hospital, right? And so a lot of time where you're lay there sitting alone, a lot of thinking time. You you know, which I love about you, you've got such an incredible outlook, but there'd be some pretty dark moments as well. Let's not dismiss that. And then, you know, obviously, like I said, you being in the hospital alone, what was that like? What got you through? You said you visualized the Olympians with the blade, which is amazing. Like it's a lesson in there for all of us to picture something, go forward. What were you feeling in those moments?
And
Wow.
Also, phantom pains, I would imagine. How did you regulate all that? Were you offered counseling during that time in hospital? Did you think you needed it? You know, of course, you've got a huge support network, but you know, sometimes you need someone on the outside with no emotional attachment, right? So you can kind of go there and just get it off your chest. And you being so protective, you sound like someone's so protective of your family. And I'll be right, I've got to do this for them, which is admirable and just such a beautiful quality of yours. But what's going on for you right then in those dark moments?
Sure. I mean, like you said, it's you go through some really dark times.
yeah,
Where I was very lucky is pretty much from the second I opened my eyes until the second I went to sleep, I had someone in the room with me. So it sounds weird, but because I was in intensive care, I always had a nurse with me.
sure. Yeah,
So I never felt alone. I could always chat. I always had someone helping me. But more so than that, the hospital was so incredible that they let my mom and my dad come in and out whenever they pleased.
amazing.
So they were amazing because, I mean, in the hospital, they wake you at all hours of the morning. And where I was very lucky is they actually put a port in. And so when they would come and take all the blood tests, I didn't feel it. So I would only really wake up at about 6, 7 in the morning. And as I woke up, or half an hour later, my dad would walk through the room or my mom would walk through the room. And I would have someone sitting with me until 10 o'clock at night when I went to sleep. So it was I never felt alone, but I always had someone to communicate the emotions to.
Yeah,
And I was very aware of they're going through this the same way I am. And it's going to help if I explain everything I'm feeling and not just the good, exciting parts, but also the hard parts.
yeah,
So in terms of the emotional side, my family and my friends were beyond incredible. I also did have a psychologist I mean, she was over Zoom, and I then subsequently went to go see her in person after I got out of hospital. But she really helped me navigate, like you said, an outside person with no attachment. She helped me navigate the emotions that I didn't expect.
yeah.
So the one day I was sitting in the coffee shop, like freedom, they finally let me have a coffee at the coffee shop at the hospital.
Oh,
And someone I know walked in and she gave me a pat on the shoulder and like the head tilt. I'm like, oh, Eri, how are you? Are you coping? And I mean, she meant it in the most amazing way. She really did. Like there was no bad intention. But I went back to the psychologist and I said to her, this is not happening. I'm not about to go from being Eri, the sportswoman, to, oh, shame, she lost her leg. How are you coping?
yeah,
And she said to me, well, Eri, you set the tone. You
yeah,
can choose to hide your leg from the world. You can choose to be upset about it and embarrassed. But at the end of the day, the hard reality is your leg's not growing back. Your lupus is not going away. You will get better. And it's kind of a choice. Are you going to set the tone and be positive about it and embrace your journey and be open about it so that it becomes normal for everyone else? Because It's not every day you see a metal leg walking around.
Yeah.
People don't know what lupus is. So tell them, make it normal. They're learning just as much as you're learning.
Yeah.
And those words have stuck with me forever. I mean, I ran with those words at the back of my shirt. So
Beautiful. Set the tone.
yeah, you set the tone.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so when you've from being home and recovering to getting your first prosthetic leg, was there, like, tell me about that. Was that I don't want to assume, but thinking you've gone where you're on one leg on crutches and then you're about to get your almost like a new lease of life, something that's going to take you to the next stage of your recovery and make you feel better about yourself and get you back into some kind of fitness and moving your body better. Was there a little bit of excitement there for you, like taking it all in, or was it a little bit of denial? Like what was that like for you at that moment in time?
Mainly excitement,
Yeah.
a lot of fear.
Right.
So I had fears about how does it stay on? Is it going to be sore? Like in my mind, you're walking on a metal pin. Like surely that's sore. And I knew that those fears were only going to be, I could only work through those emotions once I had the leg.
Yeah.
And honestly, the second I put that leg on, it was like my freedom had come back because for 4 months, which was the period of leaving hospital to getting my leg, it was.
Is that to allow healing? Obviously, that period of time they've got to allow for healing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you've also got to, it's called coning. So you've got to shape your leg so that the prosthetic can fit onto your leg, let the swelling go down. On top of it, I was on blood thinners and going through lupus treatment. So my inflammation, my wound, that's why it took so much longer than like someone without an underlying condition would. But I remember just putting that leg on and it was, I can carry a plate again. Like I don't have to say, Mommy, I've cut up my cucumbers, but I want to go and eat them on the couch. So can you carry my plate for me while I crouch to the couch? Like
Yeah.
now I could walk holding my plate again.
Just simple things, what we take for granted every day. You're literally going back to basics, aren't you? I mean, yes, you can chop your cucumber and do all that, but having to rely on someone unless you shuffle along on your bum, it just takes so much more time in your day.
Absolutely. So yeah, the excitement was just, it took over.
When you had the prosthetic, did you go to a blade straight away, or did you have one of each, a few different styles going on?
So no, just from right from the beginning, I got the walking leg,
Yeah.
which it looks a little bit different to the current leg I have. But yeah, it was that I must be honest, I was quite frustrating because I was like, and now, like, when am I gonna run? I want to run. But it took about, I'd say, maybe 9 months of the walking leg rehab, getting used to walking. I was so like, I want to get rid of the limp. And yeah, only about 9, 10 months later did I get the blade.
With your rehab, obviously, so it's so important, so much more involved. And let me just explain a little bit about this, and not to take anything from your story, but a snippet. I was actually in a really bad accident when I was younger, and my parents signed the amputation form because my leg it was pretty bad, but I was only 11, so a little bit different. But relate to you. I'll put on a brave face for my family because I could see how it was affecting them, and understanding you saying, well, you know, you said like you wanted to get fixed, especially for them as well as yourself, of course, but for them. But at such a young age, it was like, I know I'm going to be okay. They don't know I'm going to be okay. It's a weird thing. So although my leg was saved, I had like 20 or so surgeries. I can't move my ankle at all. I literally move my toes like this. But having to learn to walk again and rehabilitation and what comes with that. So I can only imagine the process of rehabilitation and understanding, like you said, with the limp, like your hips as well. You got to be so careful. You're so young still. You're wanting to have a full, fulfilled life and fitness and everything else. You've got to get that right. Yeah. With your hips and the not causing any problems there. So alleviating one problem, but ending up with another. So there'd be so many dynamics involved. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. As time's gone on, I'm like, so I've got a limp. It tells a story. It's
Yeah.
fine. Like I was so fixated on looking normal with my prosthetic
Yeah.
that now I understand the rehab is getting my hips strong, getting them level. At the end of the day, I'm tired, I'm sore, I'm gonna have a limp, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, I still go to rehab now. I go once a week now, and it's so important. When I don't go to rehab, I notice the differences. I notice the pain. So it is. It's a big process.
Yeah, it's huge. And yeah, I know, I don't know for me, and I know our audience would agree, I look at your prosthetic leg and I think that's like you walking around with your bravery award, and it's incredible, and it like should be in jewels. Like it's so amazing because it's symbolic for what you've gone through and what you're doing now moving forward, and but also presents not only you, your family, and everything that's come with that and continues to come with that. But there are, like I was like that with scars and things like that. It's crazy, but I don't know if that comes with wisdom and older. I think if I could have a conversation with my younger self, for sure. But for you, a whole different ball game again. So because for the listeners, like my connection with you came from my obsession, and I mean obsession, with London Marathon. And like you, I at school I ran, sporty and all that, and I've got like my sister-in-law is an Ironman, like she's done that many Ironmans. I'll go and do CrossFit and flip tires and weights, and that's my domain, that's my jam. And she'll tell me she's just done a 3 kilometer swim and a 120 kilometer bike ride, and then just a cheeky little 15K run to finish it off. And I'm just like, all right, you win,
And
Casual.
yeah.
And so when I see marathon runners, I just think it's amazing. And I've done runs, like I've done 10Ks or, that's pretty much it. And I'm fit. But I'm like, there's no way I'm doing a marathon, no interest. But then it kind of snuck in where it was like conversations with friends. I was like, if I was ever going to do a marathon, it would have to be in a different country, because I'm not doing 42 kilometers in my local city where I've seen it all before, because I need something different, something stimulating. And then, of course, then the London Marathon, it's my home. Manchester's my home, like seeing, but I said to you, didn't I? It's the stories behind it. Like I don't think I've cried as much as I've cried this last couple of weeks of late, because they've had Manchester Marathon as well, and all these stories. And, I've got a lot of friends who've run it for different causes, different charities, so many different stories. And, you know, your story, and that's how we connected. So talk me, you've gone from loving your short distance, maybe 4 kilometers, to there's no way I want to do a long run. Now you've got your prosthetic. What shifted for you with that, for doing your long runs, and how did that come about?
It's actually my favorite story. So like I said at the beginning, my dad's a comrades runner.
Yeah.
So I knew running, but from a supporter's role. And at the time of my amputation, he was also going through his own health issues where he had to get a melanoma cut out and he had to have skin grafts, and it was a whole big. So if you saw us in like early February 2022, you would have thought like, what happened in this house?
Oh,
He couldn't run. I obviously had just had the amputation. And I remember we were in the hospital. My hospital room overlooked the German school, and we were watching the kids running around in the field. And all I wanted in that moment was to be able to walk to the coffee shop with my dad.
oh,
And I said to him, Daddy, one day we are going to walk to the coffee shop together. And more than that, we're going to run a marathon side by side. And it was literally from the hospital. I did not know what my future looked like. I didn't know what a prosthetic, like what the prosthetic world looked like. I knew I wanted to run a marathon. And I've seen people on TV go and do their sprinting. I didn't even know if you can run a marathon on a blade, but this was the promise that we made to each other. And that's why I found it so frustrating. Like, I've got this walking leg, which is amazing. Like, I love the fact that I can walk around the shopping centers again.
yeah.
I love the fact that I can hold a plate again, but I want to run. And the first year of having that blade was really tough, learning how to control it, not being sore. My fitness, I mean, I literally started from like ground negative, let alone ground zero. So
Yeah.
it was a big struggle, but we started slowly. I knew the marathon was the end goal. I didn't know what marathon. I had my eyes set on New York because there's like a disabled category, there's no cutoff time. I had my eyes set on New York, and then I started running a 5K. So every year I call my amputated leg Stompy. I hate the word stump, so we've named it Stompy.
Love that.
And every year on Stompy's birthday, I choose to have a celebration. Like, it's not a sad day, it's not I can't believe this happened. I
Yeah.
choose to make it like Stompy's birthday. And so on Stompy's second birthday, we ran my first 5K. So I posted on Instagram, I said to whoever wanted to arrive, come, we'll start from the local gym. We'll go for a 5 kilometer run and just celebrate being able to move and being healthy.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to the end of those 5Ks and being like, that is so hard. I don't understand. How am I going to run a marathon one day? And then came a 10K. We did a 10K for charity. And now all of a sudden it was, I can do a 10K in like a relatively short space of time, jumping from 5 till 10. But I'm also doing it for other people. Like, this journey is not about me, it's for others. I can use my story for a bigger purpose. And so that was like now all of a sudden this crazy mindset change. And then in September of last year, I signed up for my first half marathon, and I ran my first half marathon in Cape Town. And it was just, I mean, I remember we were running and I saw the sea on my left, the mountains on the right, the blue sky. And I look down and I see my human foot and my blade next to each other. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I get to run. Like, this is
Yeah.
such a privilege that I'm even able to do this. Other people can't do this. And yeah, I got to the finish line of that and I just immediately, I mean, I was in so much pain. It was hard. It was really difficult. But I got to the end and I messaged someone I know that's involved in the disabled community in the UK. And I said, is there any chance you know anybody who's involved in London Marathon tickets? And she responded and she said, yes, I'm in charge of it. Here you go.
Amazing.
It was as simple as that. And so I didn't tell my family, I didn't tell anybody. I signed the forms, I did everything, and then I said to my dad, like, how do you feel about doing London Marathon? And he's never done an international. I mean, he's done countless marathons in South Africa,
Yeah.
but it was his first international. And yeah, so at the beginning of this year, I fell in love with doing races instead of just running around the area.
Yeah.
And I mean, the craziest opportunity ever. A property company in South Africa, they're called Born Properties. They do a running series across South Africa. And they asked me to be the ambassador, which was like me. Like I'm a slow runner. I've been running for maybe a year. Like you've got these really amazing, fast, crazy athletes. Like, why me? And they said because running is not about going and running comrades and running at a 350 minute per kilometer pace. It's about getting up and doing it for you. And whether that's walking, whether that's sprinting, it does not matter how far or how quick you do it. And
Yeah.
that's what you represent. And I was like so taken aback by people seeing my journey and helping others. And so we flew around the country. We were Cape Town, we were in Durban, we ran right by where I grew up. We ran in Pretoria. It was just like places I've never seen, places I've never been to in my own country. And it made me fall in love with it all over again. And then yeah, we used that as training for the marathon, and off we went to London Marathon.
That's just how life comes full circle, right? Just moves in some crazy ways. And let me ask, is your dad's health okay now? He's doing well. Obviously, he's just run the marathon with you, so he's doing, and making that statement and saying that you're going to run a marathon together while you were sitting there both not in the best ways for different reasons, to how you've come full circle and run the London Marathon, and to actually have that connection and get London Marathon tickets to be able to run the marathon as well, because that doesn't always happen, does it? So that's just, it was so meant to be. What do you think of London, by the way? How amazing is it?
I'm in love. I'm absolutely in love. I loved it more than I thought I would. Just, oh my word. I mean, you come from South Africa where, I mean, public transport here it's not a thing,
Right.
for me at least. I mean, we don't have trains. You've got one train, but like you don't just get on a train and hop to somewhere else and go on another train and hop to another place.
Yeah.
Buses here don't really work. So, I mean, you get there and it's like public transport normal. I was so happy. I was so like hopping on this train, hopping on that train. It just, oh, special.
I mean, thank God there's so many people there. Like, it's just, you literally go from one to the next, because it's kind of like not normal to drive around London for obvious reasons, because it's so hectic and so busy. And I'm so glad you got to experience that. So the marathon day for you, what time did it start in the morning? 6:30?
Half past 11.
Oh, 11:30 in the morning, was it? I was thinking
How weird is that?
that actually makes perfect sense, because there's so many, what was there, like 52,000 or something ridiculous, that have to make their way there in the first place, and then all the supporters and everyone else who comes in, and then the amazing organizers who just volunteer their time, and so much effort, so much time, roads being closed. So that would make, for such a really busy city, that would make perfect sense as to why they do that. What was that experience like for you, just absorbing that energy and, like you and I said on the phone the other day, and just what we said briefly before about everyone, none of us are unscathed. So everyone's been, or at least connected to someone who's, had something fairly significant in their life, or know somebody, who's connected to a charity, or everyone was doing their bit, all different shapes and sizes. I mean, I laughed, some of them, and that would be me. There was dinosaurs. I'd be being overtaken by people in big blow-up dinosaur costumes and everything. And I think one of our well-known comedians in England, he's like, it's pretty sad. When he overtook me about 10 times, I thought I was actually chasing him, trying to get past him, and then he's past him, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be me. But what was that energy like? What was it like? Just like nothing you've experienced before, hey?
And I don't even think I will ever experience that energy again. It's so hard to put words to, but it was the most powerful, powerful feeling. I mean, honestly, from start till finish, there were people supporting. It was like, where did you all come from? Like, how did you all get here? And I mean, there'd be like the railings along the side, and not one person, 10 people deep,
Amazing.
screaming, shouting. And it was so special. I had my name on my shirt.
Oh,
I felt like I had my friends there supporting me, like, go, Erin, you can do it. Go, Mark, you can do it.
oh,
Just, it was just like, I mean, you'll get into, okay, don't get me wrong, 42 kilometers is long, it's hard. You get sore. But then in those moments, I'm thinking, okay, remember why you're doing this.
yeah,
Remember the girl in the hospital. Remember the promise you made to your dad. Like, you're doing it, you get to run. I kept repeating in my head, I get to run, I get to run, I get to run. And then there's moments where you look at someone else's why, and you'll see someone's got like a banner at the back of their shirt for my son who passed away from, for my granddad. This is for me. I'm a cancer survivor. Like it just, and so in moments when your why doesn't push you forward, you've got these other people who their why is pushing you forward. And it was just like you're looking at everyone else and you're thinking like it's a 52,000, however many of us there were, it's 52,000 people who have their own struggle, their own story, and they've shown up to run 42.2 kilometers. I mean, it's like this feeling of, like, what am I living through? And then you've got that feeling, and then you look up and it's like, oh, there's Big Ben. What's going on? I'm in London. Like, just
surreal.
It'd be so hard trying to, because I'm all for trying to be in the moment, and that can, life gets busy and hectic, and for you've had so much to contend with, but trying to be in that moment and absorb that energy. And I'm quite spiritual, and I'm all for energy. And you walk in a room and when someone's got an energy that lifts you up, but on that you just feel it, don't you? You absorb it and you're like, yes, we're good to go. So on that day you're amongst 52,000 people plus, because crowds and supporters of just this energy. And at the same time, I would imagine you're almost having like snapshots of how far you've come, like you said before, of going, oh my God, like, how did I get here today? So it's kind of the emotion would be so raw, and that's you. And then you've got your beautiful dad next to you as well, which is just a joy in itself, being able to do that together, and something that he would only hope and wish for, to be there, and that you'd be running. I mean, that alone, if there was no one else around, is just phenomenal. So what a day. Like, what a day to just do that. And I mean, hey, 42 kilometers in itself is just massive. Let's just put it out there. But to do that with, your leg, your blade, and, even not really sure of the surfaces on even grounds and things like that in a crowd. And, there's a lot, it's incredible, running with a crowd, but having to navigate that, having both your legs is hard enough. So for you to do that with your blade as well is just, honestly, Erin, it's just amazing what you've just overcome and you're continuing to do. And I don't for 1 second doubt, and I'm so excited for our listeners to hear this because, people are going through different things, or, they'll listen to this episode and they might not necessarily know someone who's had to go through amputation or, has got a medical condition or lupus, but there'll be something in this. You can't not talk to you and not come away feeling, like I feel like I could do a marathon now. And that's saying a lot. Let's not get too excited. Although I will say, I will put it out there, and I might regret this, but I will say I did actually put my international application in. So, because I couldn't, obviously living over here in Australia, so I didn't do the being a Manchester girl local. I did the international, and I thought, you know what, I'll just put it out there. After I did that, even my daughter's just going, Mom, it's becoming an obsession now. I was just like, oh my God, everyone's inspired me so much, including yourself, Erin. But I forwarded my application, registration, should I say, to my cousin, who I'm really close to in England, and my best friend in England. My cousin has just ignored it, just completely ignored it. And my best friend said, I love you, but not a cat in hell's chance. I will come and support you, but I will not be running that. So there you go.
I'll come and do it with you. They can support us, and I'll be, if you can get in, I'll be there. I'll be on the side, right next to you, and we'll go through the whole thing together. Everyone else can support, so we don't have to scare them.
You're amazing. Oh my God. Okay, I'll hold you to that. Well, we find out in July, I believe, the beginning of July, if I've got a place. So I'll hold you to that. And
Beautiful.
That'll
Then we can meet in person.
Yes. Incredible. Well, thank you so much for today. Honestly, you're an absolute godsend, and I wish you nothing but the best moving forward. I think that I said to you at the beginning, there's so much more coming your way without a shadow of a doubt. You inspire so many, including myself. So thank you. Where can our listeners find you?
Instagram is Erin_Lazarus.
Yeah.
And TikTok is the same, I think. Erin_Lazarus.
Beautiful. Okay, and we'll put a link underneath anyway for anyone. So for all our listeners, I absolutely recommend without a doubt to follow Erin, follow her journey. She's doing incredible things, and yes, is an inspiration to us all. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It was so special, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Just an incredible, incredible way to just get everyone to feel comfy and happy to share their emotions.